What's up, guys? Welcome back. If you haven't watched any of the previous videos, I'm staying at the Govardhan Eco Village in Maharashtra, India for their 300-hour yoga teacher training course. You can go back and watch some of the previous ones to see more of this beautiful place. But today I had one of the fellow students here ask me to do some work with him for his shoulder. He's been having chronic issues for a very long time. In fact, many of the students here have asked me to work with them. It's one of the blessings and the curses of having this skill set of helping people get out of pain. It's that there's just a lot of people who want your time. But it's really cool to have a business that I can just carry with me all the time. All I need is my hands and a place to treat. So that's what I did today. So I'm going to show you some scenes from that. I won't go into a ton of detail about him specifically. But then afterwards, I'll tell you more about what I do, some of my high-level thoughts about body work, and helping people get out of pain, build a better connection to their body. So it can be hard for me to explain to new clients what exactly I do. I often just have to start working with them for them to feel the experience rather than try to explain it, because I don't fit into a neat little box. You know, if you took a physical therapist, a chiropractor, a massage therapist, a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, a yoga and meditation teacher, a strength conditioning coach, a personal trainer, a life coach, you put all of them into a blender and you spun them up. That's kind of what I do. And the mix of that depends on the person and what they need. Right? In our Western culture, we like to divide everything into little silos, where a physical therapist does rehab, and a massage therapist does soft tissue work, and a chiropractor does adjustments, and a Chinese medicine practitioner does herbalism and acupuncture and thinks more holistically. Yoga, meditation teacher, strength conditioning coach, they do movement, right? But a person needs all of those things, right? To really heal and build a better connection, you need elements of all of that. And so that's what I try to do for people. So when I'm assessing someone, I pretty much always start by looking at their organs, because in the Eastern practices, pretty much everything comes back to the organs. Things get thrown off because of the foods we eat, the lifestyle we live, the stress we're under, the emotions that we hold on to. And Eastern Chinese medicine in particular lays this out very, very well about what happens when your liver gets off, right? And we hold anger in our liver, for example. And our organs have both energetic pathways and myofascial, muscles and bone attachments throughout the body. So when the organ gets off, it creates tension along its myofascial chain. And so issues anywhere on that chain ultimately come back to the organs. So you can do all of the soft tissue work on those muscles that you want. If you don't address the underlying root cause, that tension is going to keep coming back. It's like a chiropractor, right? They will notice that things are out of alignment and they will force them back into place with this big adjustment. And things feel better for the short term, for a day or two, but within a week, things are right back where they were because that chiropractor didn't do anything to assess the underlying causes of why things might have been out of alignment in the first place, or to address those things. So the rest of the body just pulls things right back to what it was. So you got to look to the root causes. So after I address and start to do some work with the abdominal fascia and the organs, I will start to look at their breathing mechanics and their rib cage, because that's the underlying thing that affects people's posture is when they lose the ability to breathe into certain parts of their rib cage, particularly under their collarbones and or into their back ribs, right? That starts to affect our posture. We get things like flared ribs, hunched or chronically tight shoulders, neck, jaw, scoliosis, anterior pelvic tilt, pelvic floor issues. All of that is directly related to our breathing patterns. So if we can open up the rib cage, improve people's ability to breathe, that is the long-term fix for all of those chronic postural issues. So I start with the organs, I go to the rib cage and the breathing, and then I start to look at the myofascial chains. Now, it's important to note that our brain doesn't think of itself as having individual muscles, right? When we go to move, our brain has a task in mind. Like, I need to pick up the weights, right? Or I need to lift that heavy bag of groceries and put it in the cabinet, whatever, right? It doesn't think like, let me contract my bicep and then flex my shoulder and put it there, right? It just uses the tools that it has available. So if you have like a chronically stiff wrist, for example, that's missing range of motion, right? That lack of range of motion has to come from somewhere, and that usually ends up putting more stress on the shoulder. All right, so if someone has a shoulder issue, you got to think about what other things might be contributing to that problem, right? Maybe they have a stiff wrist or elbow. Maybe the hip is limited and that's causing the shoulder to have to do more work, right? So you got to think kind of above and below the site of issues. I kind of analogize it like the plumbing in a building, right? So the water has to flow through all of the pipes. And if a pipe gets clogged, that's not always where the problem eventually shows up, right? You might have a clog in one room that increases the pressure throughout the entire building, and the pipes might burst down the hall where the pipes were weaker, right? So when the pressure goes up, it's the weakest pipes that burst first, but that's not always where the clog was. So like I said, if the wrist gets clogged and you lose mobility, right, the pipes might burst at the shoulder. If the ankles get clogged and lose mobility, the pipes might burst at the knees or at the low back, right? So if you want to solve that shoulder or knee or low back problem, you got to look at all of the factors that might be contributing to that. And that's what I try to do. So please let me know if that was of interest. I'm happy to dive into much more detail about any of these topics. You can also follow me on Instagram. That's usually the best way to reach out if you're interested in working with me. You can figure out where I am in the world at any given moment. I kind of travel all over the place, so I'm happy to book sessions. I also do virtual appointments with people around the world where I teach you self-care techniques and movement practices to accomplish a lot of the same goals on your own, give you a toolkit to better manage your own holistic health. So you can reach out for that as well. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.